Today we are going to talk about nutrient needs, and this is nutrient needs across the life cycle. This is very, very important. So by the end of this class, you should be able to explain the nutrient needs for each age group, explain the factors that influence nutrient needs, identify nutritional needs of families, and modify foods to meet their needs, define recommended daily allowances and its significance. This is very, very important. So now we are going to talk about the life stages, that is from pregnancy all the way to the elderly, before we go to our grave. Yes, each individual requires a different amount of nutrients and food at a particular stage in life. For example, the baby is supposed to feed on the breast milk. The breast is the food for the baby. Yes, note that. Breast for the baby. It is not for your husband. No, it's not for the man. The breast milk is for the baby. Yes, so it is very, very important that we understand that. So in a family, in a household, everybody has his or her needs that we need to be very aware with that. So what are the stages of life? From pregnancy, lactation, infancy, toddler, preschool child, school-age child, teenager, adults, and then the elderly or older adults, 60 plus. Yes, in some books you will find the arrangements in a different form, but they all come to the same thing. From in Ghana, 60 years. In some countries, it's from they consider the older or the elderly, 65 years and above. Some even 70 years. So pregnancy, we've talked about pregnancy, how to choose food wisely, the foods to avoid, what to eat, what not to eat, when to eat, and then other food nutrients and other behaviors that we need to educate our pregnant women so that they avoid. And I mentioned the picker, I mentioned alcohol, which are giving us challenges. So it is very, very important. They did the nutrients, foods rich in iron, foods rich in zinc, foods rich in folic acid, foods rich in vitamin A is what the pregnant woman needs. Increase water during lactation is also very, very important because the mother is breastfeeding the baby. So the mother should also be having foods that are rich in calcium. And in Ghana, we normally do not drink milk. Milk is the richest source of calcium, and most of us don't eat cheese. So as we eat our fish and then the small pelagic ones, the bones gives us enough of the calcium. So it is very, very important. We need to increase our protein intake. We also need to increase our folic acid so that we can form more blood and then also protect ourselves. Increase our caloric-based food. It is very, very important because as we are breastfeeding, we also need to eat well so that we don't lose weight. So we need to balance that. Foods to avoid also include alcoholic beverages. And then we also need to study. There are certain foods as a lactating mother. When we eat, it also goes into the breast milk and affects the baby. Foods that are high in sulfur containing compounds such as garlic, onions, and then cabbages. These things are high in sulfur and sometimes the babies react. And then also spices. Some of us may like spicy foods, the hot peppers. Yes, during lactation, we need to minimize because it gives some of the children diarrhea. So these are important things we need to also consider. Infancy, from 0 to 12 months, yes, breast milk is the best. It is the best for the baby. It is the best. Nothing can. It contains all the nutrients. And if you recall, I mentioned the colostrum when I was talking about vitamin A. It is very, very important for the baby because it helps for the immune system for the baby. So we should make sure that the baby gets the colostrum. And breast milk, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months is the key. Exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months is the key. After that, we introduce other complementary foods, and the complementary foods should also be rich in the grains. In the grains, we can use the pawpaws also, pawpaw, mango. We can use pumpkin. All these things are available on the open market to feed the children so that they can get the vitamin A that is needed. Very, very important. And we shouldn't forget to use iodinated salt in preparing the food. Although we are using salt, we should be minimal. The salt should be minimal. We shouldn't overload them with salt because the kidneys are not well developed. So 6 months, I've mentioned exclusive breastfeeding, introduce one food at a time. Why? This is because we do not want to confuse the child. They are not developing their taste habits. So it is important that we introduce one food at a time, but not to overwhelm them with different foods within one day. You give this in the morning. No, let's take it easy on the children. Then from 9 months, we should also allow them to learn self-feeding. These are all important in the developmental milestone for the babies. So there are certain foods that they can hold on and play with, like biscuits. We give it to them to hold on. They need to develop that skill of eating. But we should also be careful about allergies. You should be careful about allergies. Yes, in the West, most children are known to be allergic to peanuts. Ghana, we've not found much, but there are 1 or 2. So as we add groundnut to their complementary food, let us be careful and watch so that we know. And then some also react to some fruits. So we have to be very careful and watch and know which ones the children are reacting to. Then we take them out of their diet. Yes. Then for toddlers, yes, they also need increased iron. At this stage, some of them, they started walking around and so forth. So their energy needs also go up. So we need to increase the amount of foods that they need. And then we also help them more to do more of self-feeding. And this is also a way that will also help the mothers also to be free. If we don't teach them how to feed, then it means every time somebody has to feed them. No, but they have the potential. It is all part of the developmental milestone that we need to help the children to develop. Then we have the preschool child from 3 years and above. Yes, this is the time that they want to be independent. They run about easily, so the nutrient needs also go higher. This is the time that we can introduce a lot of variety into their foods. It is very, very important. And I would always advise that we advise mothers to use our local foods. They are cheaper, and it's also very easy to come by, because sometimes when we start introducing the foreign foods, then we cannot afford. So it is important that we use our local foods to introduce the children to that. Then we increase variety. Yes, encourage children to try new foods. It is very, very important. Yes, and we should also remember that they have small stomach, so they cannot eat that much. So the foods need not be watery. Because if it is water, we are just giving them water. Nutrient density is very low. So the food should be solid. Semi-solid, not watery, so that they can eat enough to meet their nutrient needs. Very, very important. And we should know that they are growing, the growth part, so they need nutrient dense. Then the school age child. This is the most rapid growth stage in the life of the individual. So they need more nutrients, they need more calcium, blood volume is also going to grow, they need more bones to grow, they are growing in height and so forth. Therefore, calcium-rich foods. And as I said, our main source is from fish and meat, and since majority cannot afford the fish, the meat and so forth, the pelagic fishes, yes, once we have it in the powder form, it is a good way of encouraging, of getting the calcium into the meals of the children. It is very, very important. Caloric needs are high because their activity levels have also increased. So when they complain they are hungry, it is important that we feed them. So we need to explain this to mothers so that they know that this is a stage that nutrient needs are very high. And at this stage too, they are interacting with other children, so they are forming new food habits. So we need to stress that mothers have influence so that the children pick the right food habits. Yes, dieting and losing weight can be harmful at this stage. So we need to make sure that we educate mothers so that they don't encourage their children at the school age to be doing dieting to lose weight. Once they are feeding right, they shouldn't be a challenge at all. Yes, so on the average, girls need about 2,200 calories while boys need 2,008. Why? Because boys are more active than females. Boys are more active. And there are certain foods that we need to avoid. High sugar snacks and fatty foods. We cannot eliminate them totally, but we need to advise parents to go low on them. Advise parents to go low on these foods. Then the teens, this is a wonderful group that it is very difficult to manage. However, we need to encourage them to eat more of the carbohydrates, the ones that are rich in fiber. And with the females, we also need to encourage them to eat foods that are rich in calcium and iron. The females need more iron because at this stage, because of the menstrual flow, they are losing blood. So iron-rich foods, very, very important. They also need a lot of foods that are also rich in folic acid, because iron and folic acid are necessary for erythropoiesis, blood formation. So we need to encourage them to eat foods that are rich in iron, because it's at this stage that we see most of the females to be iron deficient and suffer from anemia. And foods to avoid, once again, are foods that are highly in saturated fats and then excessive salt and sugars. And this is the foods too that this stage they like. But we need to educate mothers, and when the teenagers also come to the clinics with their mothers, we also need to intervene and educate them to avoid too much of saturated fat products and excessive salt and sugar. Then adulthood. Yes, this is a group that I say we know it all, of which I am one. We all think we know all, but there's always a dilemma. Nutrient needs vary, and we need to be very, very careful, because as we age, we also reduce our activity level and so forth. So we also need to go low on the calories. Know the foods that are high in calories, especially the fizzy drinks, and then some of the alcoholic beverages like the beers and so forth, so that we go low on them. We advise them. There's also the important need to make it an effort that the adults engage in some form of activity. And this shouldn't be rigid. No specific times should be set, but convenient to suit the individual. So at the workplace, we can encourage them to walk in between, even sometimes sitting behind the desk and sending email, it's a form of lazing around. So I would say that getting up to walk to your friend to talk to the person instead of using the phone or sending email is a form of activity that one can work in small, about 10 minutes. It helps. So this is something that we should encourage our adults to do. It shouldn't be 1 hour, small bouts, 10 minutes. At the end of the day, you might have done some 30 minutes of physical activity, which is great. Yes, so we should try and encourage everybody who passes through that it's not only the food that goes into our mouth, but what we use our body to do is also part of nutrition. That is why physical activity is now featuring a lot in all nutrition textbooks. Yes. So when it comes to the elderly, our old people, yes, nutrient needs. This is a group that is challenged. Vitamin C deficiency tends to be a challenge among this particular group, because most of the time they are indoors, they cannot get out, they don't get fresh fruits and so forth. So we need to advise those who are taking care of them, the elderly, make sure they are getting fruits, vitamin B6, B12, and vitamin D. The sunshine vitamin, because they are indoor, it becomes a challenge. And with women, especially because of the hormonal change, calcium becomes a problem. So women often get fractures, bone pains, and whatnot. So once again, the Kita school boys will help. Anything that they can chew the bones to get the calcium is critical for the female elderly person. Yes, we also need to follow the daily dietary guidelines that Ghana Health Service has come out with, and I'm sure you have it in your clinics when you go there. We should also need to encourage the elderly, especially, to drink more water, because as we age, test acuity go down, the signals go down. So some can stay the whole day without drinking water, and they become dehydrated. So it is very, very important that we encourage the elderly to be sipping water. And as I said, as taste acuity goes down, it is important that sometimes we taint the water with maybe lime, lemon, something so that the taste can be different, so that they can drink. At least 8 cups or glasses, which is equivalent to about 4 sachets of pure water a day, is very good to give to the elderly, that they should have that. And then encouraging them to drink more fluid foods like porridges, soups, and so forth. They all help. There are all ways of getting fluid into them. Yes. Then what are some foods to avoid? Yes. Some do have, because of the aging, the GIT, the gastrointestinal tract, that won't work normally as it should be working. So most of the time, the elderly complain of indigestion, acid, heartburn because of acid reflux. Yes, so we need to be very careful and make sure that we don't give them foods that are too acidic, and then also foods that takes longer to digest. Some of them cannot handle the fufu, so we shouldn't give it to them. Yes, if we should give it them, they should be very soft. No, kokonte is something that they can tolerate easily. And then we also note that some of the elderly also lose their teeth, and therefore they cannot chew. And as such, giving them apim, this hard apim, will not work. So even you are going to give them anything, it should be bashed. So these are some of the education that we should be giving out, so that the food that is given is appropriate and appearance, in texture, so that the elderly will also, because they are our senior citizens and we need them. We need them. So throughout the life cycle, it is important that we make sure that the energy needs for the elderly are met. Because they are sedentary, they are not as active as they used to be, we reduce the amount of energy they are taking. However, there are some people who are in that bracket. They are even more active than people who are younger. So we need to bear that in mind as we counsel them. Yes. We also, I've mentioned about dental problems. Yes. Living alone is also a challenge for some of them. Then others also have financial problems, and then other diseases. So we need to understand that the background of that elderly person, so that we can help that person to plan a meal that will be within his or her socio-economic limits, understanding the foods that we have within us. So as we shall be talking about meal planning, and I'll reiterate some of these facts again, so that we tailor information to suit the needs of whoever we are dealing with. Yes, this gives you the dietary recommended intakes. Yes, so this is a chart that I would want you to keep to know what the needs are for the various groups. I have that the recommended daily allowance, and then the allowable intake. The allowable intake is telling us not to exceed that, what we are. But the recommended, what is recommended, but we can go over. But allowable intake, meaning that we should stick to that. So there are a few of them that you don't need to memorize. As I said, have them by you that you can refer to. Yes. So there are various key stages in life that we need to understand and tailor information to meet that particular stage in life. We should remember that it is not one size fits all. Every stage in life and the nutrients that they need, every stage in life and the things to avoid, every stage in life and what the behaviors that we need to adhere to, so that we can have a healthy lifestyle. Thank you, and I'll see you next week to talk on meal planning.